All righty. I'd like to call this meeting to order of the corporate authorities of the Village of Campton Hills. Roll call.
Trustee Benetti?
Here.
Trustee Boatner?
Here.
Trustee Burson?
Here.
Trustee Hassenberger?
Here.
Trustee Millette?
Present.
Trustee Muir?
Here.
President Wodnicki?
Present. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Frank, will you lead us in the pledge? Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, next is public comments. We have not received any. Anybody for public comment? Okay, we'll move on. Number 4, motion to approve the fuel tax appropriation resolution for improvement under the Illinois Highway Code for Brown Road, Campton Hills Road, Danker Road, and Town Hall Road for fiscal year 26 and 27. And
So moved.
Second.
Okay.
And we do have Scott Marquardt from HR Green to review that for everyone.
It's not.
There we go. Okay. This is the local match required for construction funding for the upcoming roadway project. It's an appropriation of your motor fuel tax. Once this is approved, we'll submit it to IDOT, and that'll come off of your appropriated
Sure.
motor fuel tax funds. Did not spend any MFT funds in 2025. Did receive about $493,000 in 2025. So between 2025, what's coming in 2026, you do have unobligated funds available to cover this.
Okay. Any questions for Scott?
Scott, why don't you just, for the
Comments?
public, the timing of this with Schaumburg and then construction?
Certainly. The roadway project for these 4 roadways, Brown Road, Town Hall Road, Denker Road, and the western portion of Campton Hills Road, is scheduled on the June letting for this year for construction July through fall of this year. Approximately 75% of the project is being funded with federal funds we received through Kane Kendall Council of Mayors.
Okay. Any discussion, any questions? Therese?
I just had a quick one. What is the actual total cost? It looked like there was, there were 2 different things mentioned. There was an $836,000 and then another $252,000. So are we adding those together? Is it about $1 million that we're talking about, or am I wrong on that?
It should be a total of $838,683.
$838, okay.
Okay, is the total estimated total estimated motor fuel tax funding for this project.
But Campton Township's paying some, and
Correct. Of those 4 roads, small portions of 3 of them are joint jurisdiction by the Township Highway District, so they will pay back to the village the respective percentage for those 3 roadways.
So the, just the engineering amount, that's separate then, correct? The-
Engineering is separate from
Is
this.
separate?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the total estimated construction cost is about $3.5 million, of which about 2.7 million is federal funding.
Nice, okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion? Okay, we had a motion and, Janet, go ahead.
Again, for the public that hasn't necessarily been following this bouncing ball, we did originally approve this for last year, and we didn't do it last year because it just was not feasible to get the project let and built last year, correct? So
Correct. It was not feasible to get all the approvals in place for 2025. We did actually not obligate this funding last year.
Right, and we elected to do a smaller local program.
Correct. Last year's project, which will actually be discussed under the next item, was all paid for with local general funds.
Thank you.
Okay, moving ahead. Any more comments or questions? Then we'll take a roll call.
Trustee Burson? I'm sorry, trustee Millet?
Aye.
Trustee Burson?
Aye.
Trustee Benetti?
Aye.
Trustee Boatner?
Aye.
Trustee Hassenberger?
Aye.
Trustee Muir?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. We'll go to 5, discussion related to the fiscal year 25-26 budget amendment of the general fund for roadway improvement obligations and expenditures for the remainder of the fiscal year, and that'll still be Scott.
Thank you. As you enter into your budget preparation process for this coming year, we were asked to summarize funds that were expended during the prior fiscal year. So listed out are the various projects, both engineering expenses, construction engineering expenses, and then the construction costs. I believe we also included general funding for one grant application project. So all of those funds are listed in here. One item that is not listed is the reimbursement received by the village from the developer of Norton Lakes, which offset a portion of the pavement rejuvenation cost. Other than that, all of these were funds which were expended, approved, and then expended in 25-26.
Okay,
And the total?
The total that we have that was expended last fiscal year would have been $911,954.37, less the
32,000 from the development
less
for
than
the review.
32,000. So approximately $880,000 from the general fund for all projects completed last year.
all right. Any questions for Scott or any discussion? Hearing none? Okay, we'll move on to number 6. Thank you, Scott.
Sure.
Discussion regarding a resolution to amend the village personnel manual related to the following employee benefits. Chapter 9 benefits, Section 9.3 group dental, 9.5 life insurance, and adding Sections 9.11 vision and Section 9.12 EAP. And this will be Patsy Smith.
Thanks, Scott.
He's on his way up.
I think I sent all of you in the weekly report, the pages that, as we went through this budget process, that came to our attention that are gonna need to be changed at some point. But I just wanted to point out in section 3.6 of employee classification, full-time regular employees are defined as 40 hours per week, less time off, or in the case of a sworn police officer working 12-hour shifts, 84 hours per 14 work days, less time off. And then the first thing that came to our attention was that under 9.1, which I sent you earlier, it's talking about eligible part-time employees and interns are not eligible for health benefits, but employees who work an average of 20-plus hours are eligible to receive $30,000 of life insurance. And then it doesn't say anything more about life insurance, but the contract that we have with the chief says that we're gonna give him, and we have been paying for up to $100,000 of life insurance. So when you do this personnel manual update, you need to add, well, I think there was another section for that. It says it there, but there is a life insurance section under 9.5 where it describes the $30,000 for for regular part-time that work over 20 hours, and then for full-time employees, basic life and accidental death valued at $70,000 per year. So you'd need to put in there the $100,000 for the chief. And we talked, I know the last time we brought up benefits, we talked a little bit about whether that's something we want to do to give, because it's pretty inexpensive to give to our, our other full-time employees. But because of the way the IPBC year goes, you have to negotiate and change your plan around the end of the year to go into effect in July. So we were already too late for this year for the employee assistance program, other than we get to tell them a certain number, and I don't know if we can increase that or not, but the life insurance, you should think about what you want to do and bring this back up at the end of the year to discuss changing our plan benefits with the IPPC to go into effect in July, but that won't affect this fiscal year. And then, as you can see under 9.1, it says the village board reviews benefits annually, and therefore, stated benefits are subject to change. Well, that's what you're doing tonight. Tonight is your annual review, and based on the decisions you make when Russ goes through it all with you, then that's what we'll be plugging into the budget. The other thing I wanted to bring to your attention is under 9.3, under group dental plan. It says that for our full regular village employees, that the employees pay 1% of the cost for single coverage, and that if they select family coverage, they pay 100% of the cost. Well, I'm just telling you, this is not happening. The village is not following their personnel manual on the practice. So whatever you all decide, we need to address the personnel manual, because whatever you do, it should go along with your personnel manual. And so Russ will go through those things, and then at a later meeting, we can easily fix these things. But I just wanted to bring those things to your attention. And regular full-time employees are the only ones that get full health care benefits. So there, now it's,
All
that's
right.
it.
All right, any questions or discussion? Janet?
Who prepared the resolution that we're looking at?
Carmen. Wait, you're not on that agenda item yet. You were on number, oh, wait, maybe he did put it, did he give you a resolution for that?
For the personnel, I apologize, I maybe am jumping a little bit, but
The
we,
next resolution.
yeah, so,
Carmen did that.
okay. Why are you presenting this information to us? In what way is this within the scope of the treasurer? I mean, I'm going to say, I'm not going to even ask the question. I'm going to say straight out that it's not within the scope of the treasurer's responsibilities. It's not one of your statutory roles, and it's not something that we asked you to do. So we did tell you last time that we did not want you nickel and diming our police department, and yet I feel like maybe this is still happening. So if there was an HR issue to have, if it was important to make sure that our HR personnel and policy manual was consistent with everything else, then I think we already have somebody available to consult with on that. So I don't understand why you're here talking to us about it at all, just period. I mean, you shouldn't be here talking to us about it.
Well, except that Julie does work under me, and these are issues that she's found.
Well,
as
you
through
say
the
Julie works
process.
under you, and we
According
don't,
to
and we
Mark.
do not have anywhere in this village, we do not have an HR person as an employee. You've made that roll up out of whole cloth, but the board did not authorize it. You've decided to create it, and somehow you've decided that HR sits underneath the treasurer, but it doesn't.
I'm
right?
talking about
So-
her role as payroll specialist, or the issues that she has come
Well,
up
last
with.
time you told us about onboarding, so you seem to think that it's a broader role than that. And you're bringing in the
I'm
personnel and
telling-
policy handbook.
Why don't you talk to the administrator, because
So-
he's the one that told us
No,
to
I
do
really
these
want to
things.
know why you're out of your lane. That's what I want to know.
It's just providing information, that's it.
All right, any other discussion or comments or questions? All righty, we'll move on to 7, discussion and consideration of a resolution related employee benefit cost share contributions for the village's fiscal year 26-27, and that'll be Russ. Russ?
Yeah, I don't know, I don't know if you guys have your copies of what Patsy sent out in her weekly report last week, or do you want me to bring it up on the screen, if that would help?
Oh, that'd be good. Bring it up on the
Yeah.
screen if you can.
Therese, can you, well, I guess it depends on which, who
Oh, I
wants
do?
the Sornak tomorrow?
Well, I'm probably the wrong person to do that.
Kim will take care of it.
It doesn't, I'll do the best I can.
Thank you, Kim. You're not done yet. I hope so. I don't think so. I think it was.
Oh, it is on both sides, all right. Unfortunately, I can't get to that.
Do you want it that way?
There we go, all right. Okay.
Can I have a motion to move this forward for discussion first? Nick?
Motion.
Okay, second?
I'll second.
Kim, second? Okay, roll call. All right, discussion. Go ahead, Russ.
Okay. All right, so at a prior meeting, we had talked about trying to come up with some decision in terms of how much should be deducted from employees' paychecks for their health insurance. And at that meeting, there were a few requests made of a couple different scenarios. So you should have gotten it all in the packet that Patsy sent out last Friday.
Russ, put the mic a little bit closer to.
If you look at the one up on the screen, this is the one that shows the 10, 15, and 20%, okay? So in other words, what the employee deductions, and the balance is what the village is going to pay, all right? There's two ways of looking at this, and that's why you'll see this section up here called allocating percentages and another one called flat percentages, because I didn't know which way you guys wanted to go on this. But if you look at this scenario where we were told 10%, 15% for employee and spouse, 15% employee and children, and 20% for family, my question is, does that mean that if you look at the premiums here, so for employee only, they would pay 10% of this premium, okay, actually, I'm sorry, this premium, because there's going to be a 10.4% increase for next fiscal year. So they would pay 10% of that amount. This is the premium for employee and spouse. Are they going to pay 15% of that total amount? Or down here, do you want everybody on the same plane so that they only pay 10% on the first portion of the premium that applies to single coverage, okay? And then they pay this additional percentage on whatever the remaining premium is. So if you look at the single coverage, the premium's $1353.64. The employee pays $135.36. And the village pays $1218.27, okay? So a 90-10 split. If you look at it for employee and spouse, the total premium is $2,411. If you do it this way, that employee would pay that same $135.36 on the first $1353.64 of the premium, and then on the remaining portion of the premium that applies to the additional coverage, they would pay 15%, which equals $158.67. So at the end, they're paying $294, and the village is paying $2,117 of that $2411 premium. Okay, and then the same thing just rolls out for all the other coverages. The same situation with employee and children, and then family. So in the case of family coverage, Total premiums, $3,447. Again, the employee would pay 10% of the first $1,353 of that, and then they would pay 20% of the remaining premium, so that they would be paying $554, and the village pays $2,893. That's if you bifurcate these percentages. If you don't, and it's just a flat percentage, then this is what it looks like. So the single coverage obviously remains the same. For family coverage, they're paying 15% on everything, which means the employee, what gets deducted from the employee, and this is what, employee and spouse, would be $361.72 versus $294 if the first option was chosen. And you take it all the way across the board, you can see the impact on family coverage. If you bifurcate that premium, the employee would pay $554 for family coverage. Down here, if it's a straight 20%, they would pay $689. And that's the same scenario for each of these that we gave you. We ran this, and again, you should have them in there at 10, 15, 15, and 25. And then I believe it was Nick had requested a flat 12.5% across the board. 15% and 20%, and those are all in your packages there. And so you can see, kind of get a feel for the impact. Now, just to give you an idea, down here at the bottom, this white row down here, this is what's currently being withheld from employees' checks. So if you look at single, right now it's $115.44. That would go up to $135.36, whether you did the allocation of percentages or just flat percentages. For somebody, employee and spouse, their deduction would actually go down from what is currently being withheld, because we want to believe, we're not sure where these numbers came from, but this looks like it was closer to like at 1.30% of was being withheld. And then the biggest change is going to be to the family coverage, where right now the family coverage deduction for the employee was the same as an employee with children at $407.94. If you allocated the percentages, their premium, monthly premium would go up to $554, and if you just did a flat percentage, in this case at 20%, it would go up to $689. Okay? And then we just ran, the same thing for dental. Oh, and on here, I ran it out because there are two plans right now. There's a PPO plan, and then there's a high deductible plan. We only have one employee on the high deductible plan, and that's just single coverage. But again, just so that you could see the full impact, if somebody decided they wanted to switch to high deductible, you could see what those premiums, and that's why it's not applicable here for the current deduction, because we don't have anyone taking those plans. Did you have a question?
Those options on the high deductible.
What's that?
No one's taken the options of other family members because it's single coverage on the high deductible. Is that correct?
Well, there's all four coverages available,
But-
but only one employee, and he just has single.
Single,
coverage.
yes.
Yep.
Okay, who?
I do have a
Janet, go
question.
ahead.
Thank you for putting this together. Looks like great work. I'm trying to decide whether it's easier to try and look at the small numbers far away or the
Yeah.
small numbers right in front of me.
I apologize. Yeah,
No, it's not your fault.
Yeah.
It's the numbers. So can you give us a feeling for the method that is being used today between this allocated percentage and flat percentage? what's being done today with the?
Well, that's down here, that's this white line, that's what's being deducted.
No,
Now-
I see that, but that, I mean, that's what's being deducted under current rates and everything, so is there, what I'm trying to get to is, do either one of do both of these, both allocated and flat, represent a change in the method?
Again, Janet, I don't know, because we don't know what methodology went in these numbers. All we know is this is what's currently coming out of their checks. We can't find any documentation in terms of how those amounts were arrived at. So I don't know. I mean, it looked like maybe at one point in time, and these amounts haven't been changed for a couple years now. So it looked like possibly for the employee and spouse and employee with children, it was at about 30%, just a flat 30%. I don't know if that answers your question. So it looks like they didn't do it where it was 10% for the employee portion of the premium and.
All right, so I'm trying to put myself in the position of a police officer who doesn't necessarily understand quite how we arrive at these numbers. They know the number that's getting deducted from their check, but they don't quite understand how we got here. But if they did try to understand how we got there, then what I wanted to get to is whether whatever understanding that they had in this fiscal year that we're just ending is the same understanding as either of these light or dark or blue options that we're offering. Because if I'm imagining, if I'm that police officer, that it's one thing if you tell me that the rate of whatever is going up, right? I can process that. I don't like it, but I can process it. But when you tell me that the way that we're calculating it is changing, then it's harder for me to follow, right? And so what I think I'm hearing is that we don't know what the methodology was that we've been working under. And so you've
We're not
given us two different choices of ways that it could be computed. And it's probable that this white line that we're looking at, whatever the methodology that was used at one time, we plugged in this, we plugged in that over time. So we've lost coherence on that. We don't really know.
We
Right.
don't know, and Chief can maybe talk to, as far as the employees, I don't know that they ever had an understanding, they just knew there was an amount taken out.
Yeah, I mean,
don't
that's,
know that they-
that,
Yeah, I
that's,
mean,
I
yeah.
think that's an important question, is whether you
Yeah.
think that your guys would feel that we're changing the rules of the game in some way.
To the point, Russ is exactly right, because I couldn't even, I mean, I've been here 12 years, and I couldn't even tell you how we came to those calculations. But what I can tell you is no one is unrealistic. People realize that insurance is going up, period. The method that was used here might not be the correct method to use, and people realize that costs very likely are gonna go up. So no one's gonna be devastated or extremely upset over that. We all realize it, but I have absolutely no clue how those numbers came to, and I've been here 12 years, so.
But,
Sorry, that wasn't very clear.
well, Chief, but those
That was very
percentages
clear,
you and I,
actually. That was very clear.
that you and I gave to Russ to try to run the scenario, the 10, 15, 15, and 20, are other municipalities with police departments, those are not out of line.
I don't think you're out of line, and I've seen all of it. I've seen Trustee Boatner's, like, I've seen all these numbers. I don't think any of them are out of line. Like, all the agencies I went to, I mean, there's people that are 25% family, roughly, that's about the going. I don't think if 10, 12, 15, 20, however it's done, I don't think any of these are out of line. So I did the study of like 5 other local agencies, one being a sheriff's office, that's very large, other ones smaller than us, and everyone's, for the most part, was in the same ballpark with the percentages.
Okay, Nick, go ahead.
Thanks. So when I'm looking at this, there's still some, to make a decision, there's still some pieces to the puzzle that are missing. And while what I thought I requested last week would have been adequate, it was helpful. Now it's, we're trying to balance employee incentives with affordability. And the employee incentives part of the puzzle, of course, the dream and the goal is to keep it as low as possible, being an employee incentive. But the affordability part is still a mystery to me, because what these don't give us is total expense right now, and then total expense with the changes. And then I feel like it would even still be hard to make a decision if we had those numbers before we had the whole budget in front of us. So I'd be curious if we could come to, my idea would be to come to an agreement on a maximum that we would be willing to put forward, and then kind of a goal. Like, we'd love to see these at 10%, but we're not willing to go above 20%. And then when we're reviewing the budget, to have actual total costs with the chief's full anticipated payroll, with what the goal is, whether that be 10 full-time officers and 4 part-time officers, whatever that goal is, and then to be able to manipulate it inside of the budget as a whole.
But we won't always know that because the employees can choose a different plan. And
But we can use the data that we have
we can
now as a
use the
model.
existing model, but that's why the chief and I looked at industry kind of standards.
And even if we put into it a
10
20% overage.
The 10, 15, 15, and 20 is not onerous on the employee. We wouldn't put forth a recommendation, the two of us, that was onerous or hurtful to the employee. We absolutely can say that. But we have to have a decision, because before, well, all we did is say, keep it flat, don't change their amount of what they're paying for 2 years in a row. And that's where we've kind of lost fidelity on what the percentage that Denise
So
created,
So
you
you
know,
need
4
a
years
decision
ago.
tonight.
Well, you don't have to decide tonight, but you have to tell us what number to use so we can get you a budget number on the 14th through the 21st when we have a budget hearing.
And then we can change it from there. I mean, at least give us a starting point, and then I can run some sensitivity analysis to say, okay, if we ran it at 10, 15, and 25, or whatever, 10.
Or if we just run the 10, 15, 15, and 20, we can run that and tell you, and the chief can then get feedback if anybody feels like they've been injured, and give you that before the 21st.
So follow-up then, do we know our total health insurance costs for last year? And then under those new flat rates, what it would change to with the 10.8 or 10.4% increase? Like, do we know what the difference is going to be with the changes versus what it was?
That'll be easier to do once I get a starting point, and put that in the context of the budget, and then I can go in with all the other things known, and then go in and change it from 10, 15, 15, 20 to 10, 15, 15, 25, or 12 and a half across the board. And then I can tell you what the dollar impact will be to the village overall.
Would you anticipate that the village expense is going up, down? Because we just don't know how many single employees there are, how many families there are, like, we don't know what the allocation is.
Chief, you and I looked at that. What was it, 247 or 227 for the police portion of the cost of insurance last year? It was around 250.
It was like 257, 267. That's what was the projected budget for it. But again, I don't know how that number came to, right?
But that would be going up by 10.8% to get to, I think answer your question, you're trying to put Russ and I on the spot on. But it'd be based on that number just for the police portion, but our only other one-time employee that's eligible for insurance is, I don't know what it's Michelle.
Michelle's the only one in that single coverage.
That's what I thought. She was
Yeah,
single.
All other participants in the plan are police.
So doing the 10, 15, 20, the budget item for 290,000, which is just the standard, it's just the inflationary increase of the insurance. That's the 290.
Okay, which 290?
We were budgeted 267 last year. We're talking about a 10.8% increase this year for premiums, which would get us to, you
Well,
know,
I.
another
the
290, 300,000
Well, the first number you threw out was what you budgeted.
budgeted.
We don't, yeah, I don't know that that's the actual.
So if we kept things apples to apples for next year, it would just go up by 10%.
If, in theory, yes.
Yeah, so the
Yes.
10, 15, 20, how does that affect that number? Does that number now go up? Do we budget more for healthcare, or do we budget less for employee?
It depends on where you go with this. If you, again, if you look.
Well,
at-
in all cases, I think you're gonna budget more for healthcare, because our cost from IPBC is going up by 10.8%.
And it wouldn't affect that if we did a flat rate of 20% versus 15% versus 10%
Well,
across the board?
Our raw number is gonna go up by 10.8. What percentage the employee pays versus the village. The village is gonna have 90% of a single coverage and 85% of that cost for the plan, for both employee plus spouse and employee plus one child, and then the family was 20. So it's an 80-20 split of the total premium for each of those plans, is what Russ was trying to show you.
And I understand
Am I-
that, but if it,
Am I not answering the question?
no, I think employee right now pays like 8 or 9%. It was like an odd number. It was under 10%, right? Isn't it like 8 point something?
It's.
Yeah, and that's because of the artifact
way
of 2 years in a row,
calculates out,
we
right.
didn't increase their deductible, or
Right.
their portion of the health insurance for 2 years in a row.
Sure, and all I'm saying is it potentially wouldn't be unheard of if it was the max flat rate across the board, if most of our officers are single employees. If it was 20%, I would like to see it at 10%. But what I'm saying is if we saw what those projected numbers were, I don't know if we're increasing our budgeted line items significantly, if it's gonna be the same as last year, what our overall budget's going to be, where to allocate things. I just feel like we're kind of a little bit off the cuff making this decision.
No,
No?
we researched what other agencies are doing on the cost share. And what you have to understand is that Denise getting the village accepted into the IPBC was a wonderful cost-saving move that you can't go out with 15 lives and get a good price point for health insurance. Being in the consortium, and IPBC has large communities like counties, and then they have the smaller ones like 15, 20,000 populations that have, you know, under 50 employees. So we're getting a group rate for that total premium. And so we are getting a good deal on our health insurance. We wouldn't want to leave IPBC. And in that small group, to only get a 10.8 is wonderful news, because the small groups sometimes get bigger numbers, and the large number of lives, the Evanstons and the counties, because they spread that risk so many lives, it's priced better, the total premium. But the share is kind of an industry standard. That's why I had the chief do it independent of me to get to those numbers as being a fair allocation. Mike's probably got some experience in his,
No, man, I just pay it.
Mike,
Right, actually, at this point, we're on Michelle's insurance.
go ahead, Mike.
I like the blended or the allocating percentage concept, because then, you know, there's a base level to every employee that this is where we're at for being an employee, and then what the employees, and then we'll know that's our foot always, that's the basis always. And then depending on the variances of how many family coverages versus one-child coverages or spouse coverages, then that's the float. So I like the way it's presented, and I like the way it's blended. It's maybe not as clean as just saying a flat percentage, but it does back, and I'm looking at your comparisons on the sheet here, and it's closer to where we are at right now, except for the anomaly of, employee, child, and family being the same, and we have to talk about that. But to the question that Trustee Boatner was getting to, whatever our flyout is for this year, we'll know at some point. And then we can look at the flyout versus the budget, and then we can see if it's a realistic 10% or if it's budget to budget 10%, but reality to budget it may be more or less depending on what we think we're getting for people-wise next year. But the batch of 10, 15, 15, 20, I think makes sense to me. I'm cool with that.
And Nick, to answer your question, I mean, if this helps, so here's the breakdown. So here's the one admin employee that's PPO single, and then here's how the police break down. So you've got one PPO family, one PPO spouse and children, one PPO spouse, or employee and spouse, single, family, employee and children. This is high deductible plan, single, and family. So there's 1, 2, 3, and I thought there was a fourth one. Oh, because I haven't added in, actually. Ian needs to come in, and he's under the family plan.
Chief, is Ian
So he's-
family? I thought he was a single guy.
Yeah, he's family.
Oh, he is.
So thank you. I'll actually put that in now. But anyway, so that kind of gets, so there's 4 that have family.
One is dropping family this coming year, so his son's coming off, so that will drop.
Oh, right. So, and just to give you some idea.
So the suggestion was the
Teresa,
10, 15,
she-
20.
her hand was
That's,
The question is the 15, or the 10, 15, 15, 20.
The 10,
I think
15, 15.
But the question is, do you do it as a flat percentage or the bifurcation of, they get the deal of 10% on all the plans, and then they just pay the increased 5, or do you just do it so it's easy to track from the next trustees year after year, and easy mathematically to do this? So it's a better deal if you do it, the blended, as Russ pointed out, for the employee. Does it become harder to manage and a bigger math problem each year? Yes, but it's manageable if we write the policy down and whoever follows, because the treasurers change every 2 years, and they don't ever show the new person what the decision was. So if we create the right paperwork, it shouldn't get astray. You could just make the policy call. So we're giving you, that percentage works, we think, for the industry standard. It's how you do it.
Frank has a question. Oh.
So,
Frank?
so I have a question on that. So it's harder to track, right? It's harder to be consistent. And I guess I don't really understand, because as your family grows and it's different, the premiums all go up. And then we're saying, well, the premium's gonna be higher and you're gonna pay a higher percentage. So how's that fair to a family person versus a single person versus just saying, hey, it's 20% across the board, it's 15% across the board? Because the premiums go up anyway. You're paying more money, and then we're saying, okay, not only are you paying more for your family members, we're gonna hit you for an extra 10 or 15%. So you're paying more and we're gonna charge you more. So in the private sector, it doesn't really work that way. I mean, now the splits are higher. Private sector is more like 60-40, but it's consistent across the board. The company's gonna pay X%, the employee's gonna pay X%. So if you're single, obviously your premium's less, you're gonna pay less, but you're still paying X percent. If you're a family, your premium's gonna be higher because you got more people to insure, but you're still gonna pay that same X percent. And it's also easier from an accounting perspective, and it's also easier to pass it along from one administration or one treasurer to the next treasurer to say, hey, our corporate or our municipal policy is 20% across the board, 15% across the board, whatever. So that, I guess I'm a little confused as to why we would do this, not only to ourselves, but to our employees.
Okay, thank you, Frank. Terese?
And that's why I said the industry, police, fire, union contracts, they've negotiated these kind of numbers over the years, and that's how we didn't pick them, we just looked at what,
Yeah, it doesn't
what
make
it-
it
what
right.
it's evolved
I
to.
mean, they just negotiated something that doesn't make sense.
But that's why this is on the agenda, because it didn't really get addressed the last 2 years. It just was, hey, there's a lot of stuff going on at the police. Let's just not change the raw dollar amount the year before, and keep it another year. And it's not tied out to a board policy decision. That's why we're bringing it. We're just showing you an example. You could pick 15 across the board or 20, and I think nobody'd be really wrong. It's your choice to set the policy.
All right, Terese, go ahead.
So I initially, my initial thought on that is that with trustee Benetti, I totally agree. I feel like it doesn't seem fair to have a different percentage. The only thing we want to look at, though, is if we do that, it looks like we are going to hurt the first column quite a bit. So there might be some discussion there, or maybe a combination of that first amount is the same across the board, and then the additional amount is the same percentage across the board.
Do you want me to change those amounts? Do you want to do a flat percentage across so that you could see?
Maybe you could give us a bunch of scenarios after this, or, I mean, we could do some right now, too, but.
Did you already do the
can I-
12 for trustee Boatner? You already did it, didn't you?
But before you do that, though, I'm going to ask one other question so we know what we're looking at in the bottom line. So could you scroll down so we can see that? So when you're giving us those numbers, so the current deductions, that's based on current premiums and current situation, right? Or no?
Again, it hasn't been changed for a couple of years.
No,
so
but
I'm not-
those are the actual numbers from this year with our current premiums,
Those are
correct?
the actual numbers that are being deducted out of their paychecks currently.
Currently. The blue numbers now, you've added in the 10.8% increase?
Yes.
So we have to keep in mind, too, that some of the difference in cost from this current to the two proposals, part of that is a difference in percentage, part of that is at 10.8%.
4%, yeah.
So to do like a real comparison, we might want to look at, I guess maybe to kind of like explain it to the employees, to look at what happens before the 10.8% increase, and then add that to the conversation and add that to the numbers, just to kind of get an idea of what we're actually doing, to see how close we're keeping it to the old numbers, if we take that out.
That's what would happen without any increase.
Okay. I just think I think that might help us at least start out with the right percentage, and then we'll have to add that 10.8 back in. Does that make sense to everybody, or?
Janet, go ahead.
I kind of started some of this in asking questions about how this is affecting individual police officers, and so I appreciate that discussion. I feel like we've kind of moved past that to some extent, and there's a general consensus that we're going to find a way to make this fair, and the police chief believes that his officers will accept a fair and reasonable increase. So what I would like to do is ask if you can, not in real time, but in the coming days or week or two, shift gears slightly and show us under each, it's not under each of these columns, it's not the right way, under the different percentage arrangements that are discussed, the 10, 12 and a half, 15 and 20, what is with the census that we have, understanding it changes sometimes who has family and who doesn't and this and that, but with the census that we have, as best as we know, how does that roll up to a budget number? Because because we're trying to make sure that we have equity for the officers, but we're in a budget process here. So what we really want to know, but from a budget standpoint, is what does the decision to give people just 10%, what does that cost us? Versus if we go 12.5 or 15 or something, right? How does it actually roll up into a budget line item? And I understand it's not going to be exact, because we don't know exactly what the census of people is going to be, but based on what we know today.
So under each of those scenarios that I sent, that went out in the packet Friday, you'd like to know what the total dollar impact is on the village?
Right, I think it's 4 numbers, right? 10, 12,
There
15,
was-
and 20%.
I think there were 5 in there. It was 10, 15, 15, and 20, 10, 15, 15, and 25.
I'm thinking if it's simpler.
I think the
I'm thinking-
25 is not getting.
Okay.
I'm thinking of across the board, just 10, 12.5, 15, and 20, right? And how does it roll up to a budgetary number?
Hey,
12.5, 15, and 20.
Russ, can I ask a question? Is there any way for you to create just a spreadsheet where we can punch in our own percentages and watch the numbers change? Instead of having you do 15 different scenarios, just you do a spreadsheet with all the base numbers, and we can decide, we put in percentages, and we can each do it ourselves. I mean, if you have an Excel spreadsheet, you should be able to do that, right?
Well, the one that I have functions a little differently, and it's tied into, there's 30 or 35 sheets in this file that all kind of tie into each other. I could build one for you if you want. I
Well,
don't know that-
whatever's less work for you, I guess. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm just thinking,
It would be less work for me to punch the numbers in
Okay.
and give you the dollar amount.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
fine.
And again, don't be afraid to ask me for more percent. If you want to see 13.75%.
I just thought it'd be easier if we had like a worksheet where we could just type in our own percentages and get our own, and you'll see the result of what that percentage is, and save
Yeah.
you the trouble of doing all that
Well,
work.
you know what, let me think about that, because you've got all the different, let me see if I could build something up pretty quickly and send it out to you, and then you guys can sit there and play with it. Okay?
Kim, go on.
Russ, I hate to put another one on you, but I would like to see the 80-20 flat. So the 20% flat.
Well, I think, yeah,
Is it
that
on
was,
there?
that was one of Janet's, I think, wasn't it? I think she said 10, 12.5, 15, and 20, straight across.
Only because those are numbers I thought I'd heard.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not invited to those.
Yeah, no, I mean, but if that's what is that what you were asking for, Kim?
No, I was asking for the flat where it's, the village pays 80% and the employee pays 20.
Right,
and
well,
it's based-
that's what, yeah, so.
Which
yeah,
one is that?
That would be one of what Janet was asking for.
Okay, okay.
and-
Okay, never mind, I misunderstood that.
Yeah, so here, and actually, I can show that to you now. And 20, all right. And this is what it would look like with a flat, so you look at these lighter blue percentages down, or numbers down here. This is what it would be straight across the board at 20%. You see, there's the split. The employee percentage is 20, the village's is 80.
Boy, that family really goes up.
So there's going to be a significant,
No,
significant increase on the single side,
goes up.
modest increase on the employee with spouse, and a, somewhat significant increase for the family.
Yeah.
That's a 20%
600,
across
yeah.
the board. What's that? 15?
Therese, go ahead.
You don't have to do this right now, but when you do some of those other scenarios, can you also, I know you were kind of giving us a breakdown of 4 family with 1 dropping next year, and then a certain number of singles, certain number with spouses. Could you tell us what those are this year when you give us this stuff? And then give us an idea, if you know someone is dropping down, then just in the projected numbers, just put that in the projected number?
Yeah, I mean, if,
Just so, because a lot of that, is going to really impact the budget if, depending on where everybody lands, right? If we're going down in the percentage and we're paying more, but it's not just in a few accounts, it's not gonna have as big of an impact, but if we're increasing the biggest group, then, just, so, but you had those numbers, I think, but I don't want to make you go through them right now, so
Okay.
just do it later.
Okay.
Thank you.
But maybe we could get, just
This is-
so we know and give some direction, Frank had the simplest, straightforward way, and Kim just hit on it. It's just, I think Nick asked for the 12, flat all the way across, and I think I didn't really see a number from Frank, was it 15?
Yeah, if we're doing different scenarios, I would do maybe the 12 and a half, 15, 20.
Put your mic on, Frank, thank you.
So, yeah, I would just do, Nick asked for the 12 and a half, I would do 12 and a half, 15, and 20, and see how it impacts everybody.
And
I mean,
just-
Russ just did it there, he
Sure,
just
yeah, he
changed-
can do it.
Yeah.
I mean, because that way we
Yeah,
don't
this
have to
is-
do all these bifurcations of 10% for the single, and then 10% of the 15, and then they just pay the 5. So you're really just trying to get a very simple split between the village cost and the employee. So it's an 80-20, 85-15, or a 90, or 88-12. That's what you're looking at, just to make it very simple, flat. When you say flat, we don't differentiate between the types of plans, and then it's easy to really budget that way, and it's easy to track for the follow-on board of trustees as well as the treasurer.
And Frank, and I appreciate your concern about the complexities of calculating 10% on this and 15% on that. As long as we know what it is, that's not a big deal. So don't let that be the driving force behind it.
No,
Let it-
but the
I
driving
think-
force was the people and the impact on the people.
Exactly,
It wa-
that's-
It wasn't the calculation. Calculation, to me, a worksheet's a worksheet.
A
but,
worksheet,
To
exactly.
me, it was the impact on the people, so.
Right, right. And you just have to look at it and just say, if you did a straight, if you did a straight 20% across the board, maybe the people that have single coverage think, I get 20%, I got to pay 20% of my coverage, and they've got a whole family, and they're only paying 20%, whereas when you kind of do it with 10%, where everybody pays 10%, and trust me, I'm not arguing for either, I'm just trying to lay out the facts. When everybody pays 10% for single coverage, every employee is getting the same treatment. And then they're only getting, it's a different percentage for anything above and beyond that. You know what I mean? So,
So it's kind of your 90-10.
Yeah, I get it, but then we don't pay a single person differently than we pay a married person with 3 kids either. So they're
But,
all making the same amount of money too, so.
right.
It's all relevant,
It-
right?
it's- yeah.
So it just depends how you want to argue it, so.
Well, exactly. It just depends on how you want to look at it. There's no right or wrong answer.
Yeah,
It's just,
it's-
it's just
at
the
some point,
cost.
we'd like to have an answer.
That's right.
Yeah.
Let's see, it
I
was,
think Nick
Nick
had
was
another
first,
question.
and then Therese, yeah.
Yeah, because you do want to get some information and direction from this meeting. The 12 and a half seems to be the most reasonable out of all the spreadsheets you sent. I mean, there are some that go up, some that go down. It seems to, just without doing the arithmetic, be the closest average to keeping things as consistent as to what they are now. There are some columns that are going to go down, some that go up. Everything else seems to either impact everything up or down. So, 12.5% seems to be the most reasonable from what I can see right now. That would-
And that'd be an 87.5 cost to the village for all plans,
Right,
and 12.5, no matter which plan you pick,
flat.
flat. And I think that's easy for us to track into the budget. And if that's your standard, year after year, that's just what it'll be. They pay that percentage after the IPB sends us whatever the cost of insurance went up.
Up on the screen right now is 12.5% across the board. Just,
It seems
Chief, looking at those numbers, do you think anyone is injured on that? I guess the single person is paying a 2.5% more.
Yeah, the single person is paying about, what, $38 more, and everybody else is paying less under this scenario.
That doesn't seem fair. Mhm.
Don't know why. Maybe I'm looking at the wrong sheet on mine.
Does it have the 10.5 or 10.8% in there, Nick?
Mine's 12.5 across on the yellow line, so in family, mine is 430.97. Yep, that's my yellow line.
Oh, yeah, the increase isn't there.
That's why.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, so, yeah, there you go. Yeah, I forgot I had taken that increase out earlier. So this is what it would look like with the increase. Which we just received word today, that is the final increase, was at 10.4%.
And then to trustee Benetti's flat number, you're choosing a flat number.
I mean, I'm only one voice, but that's my preference. It's just, seems like it's easier for everybody. So,
And Nick, that was your intent, right?
That was what I thought going into this, I would have liked to have seen.
Does anyone,
Trees, go ahead, Trees.
I was gonna say, don't totally eliminate that bifurcated analysis, though, just so we can kind of see what happens. But when you were doing it on your sheet, were you giving a different percentage to everyone above the single? So was it the single pulled out, and then the excess was at the same percentage across the board?
Right, yeah, so the way, all right, so if you look at it here, so this is that 10, 15, 15, 20, kind of
Okay.
the base where we started from. So you can see here, it's 10% for single, they're paying $135 on a $1,353 premium. So is the person with employee and spouse. They're paying $135 on that first $1,353 of premium. Then the difference between the total premium and the single premium is this amount, and that's what they're paying the 15% on. Does that
Makes
answer your
sense. So what I
question?
would say for the two scenarios, though, then take that scenario, and if you apply 15 to employee and spouse, then apply the same 15 to employee and children, 15 to family. So that at least, like, what we can say is those are, once you get outside of the single category, then we're at the same percentage for anything above that.
Okay. so-
Maybe? Is that
Sure.
kind of a combination of what Frank was talking about and, a straight percentage across the board? Only because I would like to see what that looks like compared to the straight percentages and see, because right now, like I had said earlier, the single people are taking the biggest hit on this. And so I'm not sure if we want to do that, or if we would want to, because we're kind of fixing, or we don't really know what the percentages were before, but we're, doing something new. Maybe we step it up, and the first year we do, we do it one way to kind of not have the singles get hit quite so hard, and kind of share it a little bit more equally with what they're already paying or what they're used to paying, and then, work it through that way. Does that make sense?
So
Nick
this
and
is
Frank,
10 with 15% on any additional coverage, whether it's family, single, or
I think that-
and spouse.
I kind of like that idea of doing it that way maybe, but I don't know, there might be other thoughts on that.
Wait,
Well,
Nick
that
and
helps the
Frank,
family.
We have to respect who's speaking right now, yeah. No. She-
Right. If,
Go ahead, go make, yeah.
I just wanted to say, I respect everyone's opinion here, but I agree with trustee Millet. I liked the allocated version that you did. At first, it seemed like maybe it was a little complicated, but as you pointed out, we can do amazing things with spreadsheets. So once we get the rules down, I don't think that the complication, matters that much, because it seems that it actually, it aligns the expense better with what the what with the insurance the person's consuming. And so I feel that even though it looks more complicated at first, I think that it gives a better representation in the end of what we're trying to achieve.
Okay, are we ready to move on? It was good conversation, though. All righty, moving on to 8, discussion and possible
We don't need a roll call, it was just discussion
Yeah, I think so. Discussion and possible consideration of a motion related to Metro West Council of Governments lease expiring on September 23, 2026. I don't know if all of you know that Metro West Council of Government, they lease the office next door to us, going east. So I'll accept a motion for discussion of that and possible consideration.
So moved.
Mike moves, Kim
Second.
seconds. Roll call.
No, we gotta know what we're gonna do.
Okay,
We should discuss.
just discuss. All right, who's first? Kim, you go first.
Okay, so, how does Metro West get their money? Is it just from dues?
Yeah, now Patsy's got all the details, so if you have any questions.
Well, I want to know how they do business. I mean, it's just their dues.
Well,
It's-
they get sponsorships too from
Okay.
when they have events.
So I know why we're giving them such a good deal. I do wonder if it's time, though, that we cut them loose on gas and electric. Yeah, it's a small, minor amount, but we're also looking at a budget crunch.
Patsy, can you expose what the rent is and,
read to you what the lease agreement says, but I think they all got it.
Okay.
The lease, yeah,
Okay. You've got it all there? Okay.
we just need to know if the board wishes us to talk about renegotiating any terms, because you've got an opportunity this year, because the first 5-year contract's up. The downside is, to the way this is written, they have to agree to any change. So you could ask for them to pay their utilities and the water and sewer, but they can say, no, thank you, I want to renew at the same term.
Oh,
You could ask to waive our dues for the free rent and stuff.
Yeah, we did get that.
Mike, go ahead, Mike.
We did, I mean, we talked about, it's hard for them to account for it. I mean, it's easier for them just to account for ins and outs. To the point of, I think, maybe we could talk to them about utilities. I think that would be fair. I don't see a tenant coming in that space in any near time frame, so at least we're getting some revenue
Have them pay
to account
utilities.
for the space. So I would think maybe a nominal increase to maybe $1.75 per square foot, and then they cover utilities.
Would you all like to know how much you've paid in utilities for the last 2 years? Since May 1st of
Use the mic, Patsy.
Since May 1st of '24, you've spent, let's see, $1,160.40 in NICOR and $7,004.20 in ComEd. And the sanitary district is $1,123.48 that we've paid for both units. So the monthly charge for the village is $40.71, which is about $10 if you, $10 a month if you charge them a quarter percentage. So it's basically $300 a month is what we're paying in utilities.
Utilities, okay.
For them to be there.
Yeah, Janet, go ahead.
I have mixed feelings about the issue because it's small change and doesn't really affect our budget. And again, being brought up by someone who's really not in a position to talk to us about this. However, I brought the issue up a couple of years ago. And the reason that I brought it up 2 years ago is because I assumed that everyone had calculators when this deal was done, and they knew what they were doing. And the reason that they did it was because the former president was anxious to get in the good graces of Metro West. And sadly is no longer the president, sadly for him, I guess. And so that effort to, you know, to get to curry favor with Metro West mattered not when it came to who was the representative the following year. So I think that played a lot into why this deal was done in the first place. All that said, we understand they're a nonprofit org, they're here, and to Trustee Millet's point, I'm not sure who else is gonna rent it, so, but I agree with, with Trustee Millet that we should at least be, I think it was Trustee Millet who suggested we should at least be, or Kim, I'm sorry, Trustee Muir, that we should be at least recovering our utilities on this. And the nominal increase, I mean, a nickel, who cares? But I don't think we should be subsidizing the utilities.
I will meet with them and discuss it and report back to you. I did show this as an item that, a lease that was coming due, that marginally affects the budget, but this is the time we try to address issues that are ripe for any consideration. So it was on my list, and we just decided to put it in this and get your direction, because I thought there could be a bunch of you who said, just, you know what, we love those guys, just leave them alone, we'll eat it. But I didn't want to make that assumption, so we'll ask for the utilities. Okay?
That was my only comment, is that I would just make sure that we're not, you know, losing a bunch of money on the deal. I mean, you know, just to kind of have an analysis. And was there a comment made that this shouldn't have been brought up? Because I think this is extremely relevant.
That's why I was saying that I
Okay.
initiated
Okay,
it.
because I don't really, at this point, necessarily care who brings it up. I think these things need to be discussed, and so, you know, thank you for bringing it up, Patsy, if it was you that brought it up, and maybe with the two of you together. We need more of that, more proactiveness in bringing these things up.
Okay, any other?
It was a conscious decision 5 years ago. It needs to be another conscious decision with this group this time. So we'll report back as soon as we get something, and I'll hopefully get them to write it in their letterhead. Thank you.
Frank, go ahead, and then we'll
Yeah,
go to
I
Nick.
wouldn't discount that you got 5 more years, so, I mean, if you think about it, if we're not looking at the rent costs, rents have skyrocketed over the last 5 years.
That's true.
You know, so if you're not gonna change it for the next 5, you're gonna give them the same rate for 10 years. I think you need to, yeah, I think you need to at least look at what market rents have done and ballpark it. You can even discount it. But I think anybody who rents space reasonably believes that once the lease is up, your rent's gonna change a little
Yeah,
bit.
that's
so.
true. Yeah, Nick?
Yeah, that's what I did before we came in, in the area, the office space is like $15 a square foot, and this one is being rented out at a little over $20 a square foot, but including utilities. And then what we end up with is really an overage of like $4,300 over 2 years. That's what we are losing with utilities. So we should, just to be at like current market rate, including utilities, increase the rent like $175, but to be proactive, like $200 a month would be the reasonable increase. So like $1,050 a month. And that would get us to $15 a square foot, and it would include utilities.
Utilities plus $15 as well.
No, it would, yeah, that would be included in $1,050 a month. It would cover their utilities plus $15 a square foot.
All right, we'll see what they say.
And I didn't go into this being overly compassionate to who the tenants were, and maybe the village has a different perspective, but just that's what the rate should be.
All right.
We'll get a response.
Yeah, anybody else? Okay. Moving on, we're on 9, discussion related to setting the budget hearing for Tuesday, April 14th, 2027, and I'm just looking for a consensus.
I'm actually just speaking to Russ just this afternoon. I'm going to ask if we could do it on the 21st, because that gives Russ more time to make some necessary changes, so he's got a robust, completed document a week before the hearing. It could be a hard, because Russ got some other issues that are happening to him that are extraneous to this. So if we could give him to the 21st, he'd have all the documents to you on the 14th, so you could ask him questions before the 21st, so we could have a productive
Does that work
hearing
for
on the
you?
21st.
Is that,
Yeah, I mean, that certainly would work better for me.
Okay.
My concern is that I don't want to rush something and give you guys something that's incomplete or has
Got
holes in
it.
it. I'd rather give you a more
Okay.
finished product and try to get it to you, say, on that 14th, get you the document, give you a week with it, and then we can meet on the 21st. I just think it would go better. I don't want to waste your time or my time by giving you something that's incomplete.
go ahead, Therese, and then we'll go to Mike. Yeah.
You just may want to change that to 2026,
Oh, how about that?
as much as I'd like to put it off for a year.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind either. Michael, go ahead.
Just looking at my calendar, assuming everything, we don't have a lot of fluff, so assuming everything's copacetic on the 21st, that's cool. If we need to have a second meeting, just FYI, I will not be in town on the 28th.
On the what?
The
Okay.
following week.
Okay.
Yeah, well, no, first few days.
So we could do it Thursday if we had to, I suppose.
Okay, so what are we settling on, the 21st, April 21st? Okay,
If that's agreeable to everybody,
And the key to making it work is if you got questions on the 14th up to the 21st, call and talk to Russ or the chief or me to answer your questions, so you don't wait till the 21st.
And that should give you time, again, give you a week with it. And just to let you know, I've been summoned for jury duty starting on the 13th.
oh, geez.
So I may be unreachable at times, but I can certainly come in the evenings or whatever.
Kim, go ahead, please.
So would the 21st be our normal time, or is it going to be earlier? Kind of need to know it. I might have a conflict if it's early.
Oh, 7 o'clock, I would say.
Okay.
The usual time.
Well, what we will probably ask you at the end of this is that we would hold the regular agenda of items and warrants and minutes on the 14th, so we don't have to finish the budget prematurely to get to the minutes or the warrants. We'll do a special on the 14th to do the regular village business, if that's okay with everybody. So that then the 21st, you're not like, oh, I gotta finish the budget because I gotta pay something or approve another document. We'll just
Okay.
have it be the budget. Is that reasonable for everyone?
So we're good to go for that? Good. Okay, 10, further discussion related to the fiscal year 2026, 2027 proposed budget. Russ, you need a bottled water?
No, I'm good.
You're good? There you go. James will.
I was joking once, my mother asked me if I want a hemlock. I passed.
All right, use the mic, Russ, if you will. Okay.
Oh, jeez.
You're not having a
Joking, now you get a concussion.
Yeah.
It'd be over already.
All right, so we handed out a sheet called CPI data. Hopefully you have that. We've got it up on the screen here. So we pulled up some numbers from three of the numbers are from the
that's
U.S.
good. That's good.
Department of Labor Bureau of Labor Statistics. Through February, they're saying that the annual rate, CPI rate, is 2.4% for the U.S. overall, for the country. For the Midwest region,
Oh, okay.
it's 2.8%. And then drilling it down a little closer, for Chicago, Naperville, and Elgin, it's 2%. And I also looked up the Illinois Department of Revenue, State of Illinois. This is what goes out to all local governments, and this is the number that they need to use in connection with their PTEL limit. Okay, I don't know if you guys are familiar with PTEL, but that's the property tax extension limit, that it cannot be more than CPI, and in no event can it be more than 5%. So the rate that they're supposed to use for, yeah, here, I got it here. For the 2025 levy year, which are taxes paid in 2026, was 2.9%. If you average those, you're at 2.53%. A few weeks ago, a month ago, we had a meeting with Mark and Barbara and Chief and Patsy. You were there, right? Yeah. And we're talking a little bit about increases. Obviously, you know, for salaries, the biggest impact is on the police department. And we had thrown out kind of three scenarios. We discussed three scenarios. One was 3.25%.
Yes.
One was 4%, and one was 5%. Obviously, this CPI, this basically reflects inflation, right? If we were to give 2.8 or 2.9 or whatever it is, that would basically keep the employees in track with inflation. But it does not include anything for merit,
Yeah.
okay? So that's why, you know, there's at least a difference between these percentages and potentially what's gonna, would you guys decide to put into the budget. So, so again, that's where it's at. I don't know if you guys want to have some discussion on, because, again, in order to build out this budget, I need to know where you guys want to be for that increase.
And the chief and I started in December, looking at his budget and a COLA before we were aware of these numbers. But we knew health insurance was going to go up at 10, 15%. So that's why it was going to go above a 2.9 or a 3 to go 3.25, and then show a scenario at 4% and 5%. That's the number I've been discussing with the chief since before Christmas.
And these CPI percentages, these are through February, so they do not take into account recent increases in gas, could be her short term, could be her for a while, we don't
3.25,
know.
and then show a 4% and then a 5%. And the chief would make recommendations. Everyone would get 3.25, and then the chief would make his recommendations to the administrator, whoever that she or he would be, that they justify a higher number than 3.25. The standard would be 3.25, and, you know, the folks that he just recently promoted to sergeant would probably be in the 4 or 5 recommendation because of their merit, or the one that wins Officer of the Month 6 times out of 12 might not be a 3.25 employee, they'd be a 4 or 5. Gives the chief some discretion on the merit.
And to give you guys, put it in context of the budget, so I did a quick little sensitivity calculation. So if you did 4% instead of 3.25%, okay, the impact on the village annually is about $12,000. Okay, if you went from 4% to 5%, the impact would be 16,000. And if you went from 3.25 all the way up to 5, it's about $28,000. So that gives you some idea of the impact on the village for.
Okay, any other discussion? Oh, Michael.
But clearly, we'll show those numbers of that sensitivity, so when you do approve the budget on the 21st, you'll be able to see that, and you could talk to the chief directly on, the impact that might have on his retention.
Mike?
Another
Please.
thought for retention, or I wouldn't necessarily, I want to, hello, public, I want to listen to what I'm saying, public. I wouldn't want to commingle like a acknowledgement of an officer of the month to a permanent, no, here's what I'm thinking, to a permanent. It should be maybe a gift. I mean, it could be just a bonus, just a one-time bonus as opposed to that. And then that could be more discretionary. You've got a pot of money to go for bonuses and do it that way.
Go ahead, chief.
Yes.
Yes.
Hold on, I concur, but two parts to this, so we understand this. I have budgeted currently, which we've done the last couple of years, I think it's 35,000. Has not been given to the officers as a bonus yet, because I don't know where my budget is at. So I haven't done that yet. So whatever is determined, whatever amount it is, I do not want to base COLA raises on what I think one person did or didn't do better. Whatever it is, if it was 2.8, if it was 4, if it was 74. Like, I want
Give it to everybody.
everyone has the same
same.
thing.
Okay.
Yeah, yes.
And the bonus, we did set that up a year ago or 2-year budgets ago to give the chief to do the
It's a great idea.
merit above the COLA. So this, I'm sorry, I misspoke. You straightened it out. 3.25 is the worst case that we'll budget, 4 or 5, and with the sensitivity of what it does to our budget. But we can give you more detail offline of what we structure our officers, how they rank in the surrounding area, and that's why I spoke about retention. So the chief's got some strong feeling that it should be at the 4 or the 5 number, but I wanted to at least get from the trustees a 3.25, not a 2.5.
And that is a credit to the board. Like 2 years ago, like that was the board's decision to implement that yearly bonus amount. And what may not seem like an excessive amount of money has been taken very well by the officers. And now that is based off merit. So what one officer gets, another officer may get slightly more. But, if an officer gets a $2,000 bonus, to them, that's a big deal. And it mattered. It was a huge deal. And the officers recognized that too. So, and that was the board that did that, so.
Yeah, and we'll want to keep that bonus rolling as we've done the last 2 years.
Janet, go ahead, and then we'll get to Kim.
So I wanted to just throw my hat in here at starting at least 4% on this. As Budget Officer Surqua, explained to us, we're not talking about vast amounts of money here in this greater scheme of the budget. These, a 1% or 0.5% or 1.5% difference, it's not going to break our budget, but I think it sends a signal to our officers. And one of the things that we've heard repeatedly now is that despite numerous attempts by the board to bring our officers kind of up to par with what is going on elsewhere in the community, we're not there, right? We're just still not there. And we have officers, we're losing officers to other communities. We have officers that are coming to us apparently for less than they could make elsewhere because they value this opportunity, and a high five for that, but they really shouldn't need to do that. And so the larger issue that despite, really I think sincere attempts by the board to level up, we haven't quite gotten there yet. And so I think we're going to need to continue to increase a little bit above the inflation rate in order to catch up. I mean, it's a long-term plan, really, of catching up. We couldn't get there all in 1 year.
Do we have consensus to go with 4 as the base number and 5 as the optional number for the budget for Russ to be able to plug it in? Is that fair? Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
I
Okay.
see consensus for 4 as the base number, not 325, and we will go also show 5.
Terese, you still?
So this is to Chief. Can we get comparable numbers for police departments nearby? And, you know, I'm sure that you probably know how to get those. I don't know how to get those. But could you share those with us?
Yeah, I could give you all a copy, actually. It was, I have to pull the exact agency. So late last year, a northern agency, and I like what they did, was they're out of Lake County. And I think they were close, a smaller agency like us. And I want to say they were closer to the Fox Lake area. They actually did a 40 to 50 agency comparable, Kane County, Lake County, and McHenry County, from sheriff's offices down to agencies that were smaller than us. And it has it all listed on there. So it wasn't me that did it, like they did it. I think it was in part of a union thing they had going, but I can give it to you, and it's a very good comparable.
It's current, fairly current?
October
Oh,
2025.
Okay,
So,
excellent.
yeah.
Okay, that'd be great if you could get that to us. Thank
Sure.
you.
Kim, what did you want to speak? No? Got it, okay.
Would Metro West be able to provide anything like that?
We could ask.
Oh,
They could survey what they get back.
true.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Just,
That's a good idea.
I'll just add that to the discussion. Chief?
Okay.
No, they do surveys no matter what.
All right, anything more? All right, we'll move on. Okay, discussion and consideration of an RFQ for auditing go ahead.
One more item. I'll
Sure.
Just to share with you guys, I'll bring up to speed on some of the revenue numbers in the budget. Let me see if I can navigate my way to it. I think she handed it out, yeah. So we went ahead and we used these are out of that IML magazine. If you look at this column here, the municipal fiscal year 2027 initial forecast, these are the numbers that I use. So for sales tax, income tax, 180,136 per capita. State use, 267. You can see the motor fuel tax numbers. So this is what I used in this worksheet, if I can get back to it. Here we go. So you can see that these are those same numbers over here. That's what this FY '27 budget, this $3,252,000 is what that works out to. And that includes just estimates, our own estimates on the sales tax, building permits, and the grocery tax. But otherwise, the rest of these are all calculated. And what we did was, because there's a proposal by the governor to, get to that sheet now. There's a proposal by the governor to a reduction in the distributive share of these amounts from 6.47% to 6.28%, which is about almost a 3% decrease from what we would normally get. So in order to account for that, for income tax, you'll see here, we took it down to 95% of what the per capita amounts were that they, in order to account for that, because those aren't final amounts. We think that would be the high side. It could be lower, and we could maybe adjust this amount as in the next week or two. So for that and for the local use tax, we're using 95% of those per capita amounts. Okay.
Okay, any, Janet?
Thank you, Russ. I have heard from numerous quarters, and I think everyone's concern is justified, that you know, we have a budget problem, right? I mean, we don't even have the numbers from last year, but I don't think we're gonna like them. And we're gonna struggle based on these revenue numbers, we would struggle, the revenue numbers that you provided us, which I don't dispute, we would struggle to balance a budget in the coming year. And this is not because of excess spending, particularly. And there's things that we're not able to control as much as we would like. Spending of the police department has increased, not because anybody's doing anything bad, but because it just costs more to deliver policing than it once did. It costs more to pave roads than it once did. The costs of running Village Hall as a proportion of the total, you know, with one glaring exception, a couple of years ago, have remained relatively constant. But our revenue sources have dropped, and we can see this is a structural issue. It's not something that we can fix by deciding to pay the police officers only 3% or 2.5% instead of 4% or something, because that $5,000 or $10,000, $16,000 isn't going to fix our budget hole. However, what I feel it's not maybe all that bleak, because we've received some information, some great information about some of the payments that we've received on utility taxes and streaming taxes. It's incomplete because not everyone has paid us. And so going forward estimates are estimates. And but it appears to me, and I sent spreadsheets and a document out, and if you look at the spreadsheet that lists the amusement tax and utility taxes and so forth, you see that there are some lines, that quite a number of lines are estimates. Other ones are actuals. And so these estimates I have a high degree of confidence in, because if Amazon paid us over $2,300 last month, I have a fairly high degree of confidence that, this month and next month are going to be similar. So estimates that are based on what one of these vendors has paid us in the past, even though we're just getting started, I think those numbers are only going to go up. Some of the other estimates you could question, but I think they're fairly solid. If we look, for example, at the relative rankings of these companies, if we say that, well, we're going to estimate $1,300 a month coming from Peacock based on what we're already receiving from Disney, I think that's probably a fairly safe number. The largest number here that I calculated relates to the electric tax. So we've received $35,000 for January for the gas tax, $47,000 in February for the gas tax. So those were winter months, higher gas usage. Those numbers will go down in the future. But we've not received anything from ComEd yet, so we don't even know what their baseline number is, but we know it's going to go up as the weather gets warmer. I also did a little bit of basic research, and average gas bills in Illinois are about $90, and average electric bills in King County, $165. So same tax rate. So I would anticipate that the take on the electric tax could be actually higher than over time than what it is on the gas tax. But in any event, if you take an estimated average bill, over the year, it's going to vary month to month seasonally, but an estimated average bill of $165 a month, 3,800 households, come up with $627,000 of gross revenue. 5% of that gives us $31,350 is where the utility electric tax line estimate came from. So Is it gonna be, is that overall electric revenue number, is it gonna be $20,000 or $30,000 more or less? Probably. It's not gonna be, that's not an exact number, that's an estimate. But we're in the right church here. And we don't even have in these numbers, even with these estimates, we don't have any of the smaller players, right? So we have Spotify, but we don't have Pandora. We have Twitch, but we don't have Minecraft and Warcraft and some of the other gaming companies. I noticed that in this last couple of months, every single purchase that I make online, every app, every monthly charge, I'm getting this tax. Now, is that more than what we thought was going to happen? Possibly. But in terms of our revenue issue, I came up with an estimate of $114,000 a month on this, and we have dozens of companies not paying yet. Now, so is it going to be 114? Is it going to be 110? Is it going to be 105? Is it going to be 130? I don't know, but it's not going to be 50, right? So I think that we're in the fortunate position, having made a difficult decision on these taxes that we did not want to make. We're in the fortunate position now that we are facing a shortfall of at least having an option. We have something, right? And even though this money is earmarked for roads, we've been subsidizing roads out of the general fund forever. And so the money that we earmark for roads rolls up, into the general fund. And if we end up deciding that the overall amount of money that we're taking on these taxes more than covers our roads, and we need help in a different area, I'm pretty sure we're going to be able to find a way to allocate this between roads and police, right? But the reason that we did it this way is we didn't want to say, well, just because we've taken in some tax money means we can hire 3 additional people in Village Hall, right? That's why we did it this way. So I think that this is, on balance, I think it's good news. I'm cautiously optimistic that these taxes are going to continue to come in at significant numbers, and that we're going to be looking by the end of a year from today over $1 million that we would otherwise have not collected.
Yeah. Okay. Mike?
Thank you, Madam President. Few things, this is the general discussion, right? I think the 95% of IML has always been kind of our rule of thumb. We think that's good. Budget conservatively, spend judiciously, and we've been having a net, positive cash flow at the end of the year. I think the play that the governor's office is doing is the same one they've done the last 6 years. They say they're going to do this, and then they just basically acquiesce and say, okay, fine, we'll just won't touch it. It's almost like rain in the spring at this point. The one question I did have, though, specific to the spreadsheet, is we've got local use tax dropping by 184 budget to budget. Is that an incorrect number for the 26 budget, or is it something else I'm not realizing in the 27 budget?
Well, I'd have to look into what was in the,
Current year budget.
yeah, in the current year budget.
Because if you tell me that number's wrong, it would not surprise me, but it would explain it.
This is, yeah, right now, so in FY '25, we're talking about local use tax, right?
Yeah, local use tax.
No, yeah. So FY '25, it was 364,000. This year, we haven't received April's yet, but throwing a number in there, 5,000, looks like we'll be at about 97,000.
Okay, then why do we got 29 in the,
And 29, because that's based off of that's off the per
That's
capita
IML?
amount in.
Okay.
In there, so.
okay, that's a big
I
difference.
wish it were a mistake, but
If you
no,
look
it's.
at your magazine
Yeah.
for February, it says the '24 actual was $38.21,
Okay.
Then 25 was 3346, revised October was 852, revised
Okay.
December was
That's bouncing all over the
859
plick and
an
place.
hour.
Okay.
Estimated forecast is $2.
But it's
Okay.
bouncing
It's a 7%
down.
drop
All right, okay.
since '24.
All right,
I do
anybody
have-
else? Okay.
No, you good?
All right, we're going to move on then.
Wait,
Oh,
Barbara.
I'm sorry,
Can I-
Russ.
yeah.
Of course.
If I could ask one more, just
Of
some
course.
direction, and I apologize for forgetting to ask this. So, for purposes of the budget, what do you guys want me to build in as far as staffing this department be, okay? For, do we budget, do we include the $7,000 a month for Lauterbach and Amen? Right now, what we've got in there is we've got myself and Julie in there for 19 hours a week to try to stay under that 20, so it doesn't mess up our IMRF. But, as we've talked about before, we're not a long-term solution. So some thought needs to be given to how do you want me to build this out, for the rest of the fiscal year? Do we include the 7,000? Do we include another body other than Julie and I? How do you guys want to
Maybe do it both
work
ways.
this?
Yeah.
And again, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but again, it's going to be an important number in here, so in the budget.
Anybody,
so.
Nick?
So I would suggest that we do budget in what we've already determined we're going to do, which is the Lauterbach and Amen, the $7,000 a month. This is starting point, my suggestion. And then I would ask Russ, Mark, and our HRTU company to figure out a job description for what your role actually looks like when you are done with the short-term projects that you're working on now. I think we need to determine what that role is and what the salary is going to be for that.
And I think very clearly, when Russ agreed to take this on, he was going to do payroll and a little bit of administering the benefits. So it was a $45 an hour, but it
40.
evolved.
40.
40. So I would say between 40 and 45 for next year for his under 19 hours. And that's what we originally thought. We carved out of Lauterbach and Amen doing any payroll, and Michelle's position doing, after they've had some serious training with her, she is getting much more adept at the budget and getting the GL numbers proper. So we will talk more about that on the 21st, because I've been out of that discussion for the last 2 months, and I'll need to re-engage now.
Well, I would suggest we stick with the plan.
Okay, so,
Just exactly what we just said, the $7,000 a month, $45 an hour for that up to 19 hours per week? Is that what we,
40, but, yeah, that's okay.
40?
Yeah, 40.
Oh, 40? I thought Mark just
For
said
what?
45 an hour. 40.
He did say 45, but it's
Okay,
40.
and up to 19 hours a week? Or was it
For two.
Well, it was for two,
for two people?
for two people,
19 hours each?
right.
I think that we need to discuss, though. Do we, long-term, are there going to be two people? Or is that part of the short-term? Because I felt like it was part of the short-term, and long-term, there was an individual. So we'll need to figure that out. I believe we only need one long-term.
Yeah,
That's an extra 7. on
yeah,
top of
one
that.
long-term at
Doing,
19 hours a week. I don't know that that's doable, but,
now, is that taking into account that the contract with Lauterbach and Amen only is asking for us to provide checking account reconciliations and the payroll processing, 19 hours a week.
Yeah, Nick, then I seriously think you're gonna have to increase that 7,000 a month, because I just don't see how you're gonna be able to do it with 19 hours a week of somebody here, okay? 19 hours a week and 10 to 12 hours a week from Lauterbach. I don't think that's realistic, okay?
That's what they've committed to. Do you believe that it takes more than 19 hours a week to do the checking account reconciliations and the payroll processing? 'Cause I felt like that was actually given a pretty big cushion.
If that's all
Mhm.
this position's gonna do is just bank reconciliations and bi-weekly payroll processing,
Yeah,
I think you could get it done in 19 hours a week.
and potentially
But,
less.
but what's gonna happen to all the other accounting functions? I mean, Michelle handles some, but she processes the payables, but there's a lot of other accounting functions that go into that. I think you're gonna, then Lauterbach is gonna have to come in and bill you for. That's what I'm afraid of. Again, I've only been here 3 months, so I don't know.
Sure, I just think we need to get more specific on what you're seeing that's not already in the contract, because when we went through it, I was confident that that was covering all of our other bases. So what
Yeah,
else would be in the 19 hours, if we could just address what else it would be? Because we're trying to figure out a budget item, so it would be for one individual, 19 hours a week, or two individuals totaling 19 hours a week?
Well,
You and Julie, or is it just Russ? Like, what is the scenario? I envisioned it just Russ, total of 19 hours a week.
and again,
Lauterbach and Amon.
if all I'm going to do is payroll and payroll and bank reconciliations, I think that's doable, okay? But who's going to handle the general ledger? Who's going to do, you're saying Lauterbach is going to do all of that for 10 to 12 hours a week?
And is there, Mark, this is what I believe, do you see any discrepancy here?
I need to get re-engaged with Patsy and Russ, because I've been distant for 2 months. So I will re-engage, and on the 21st, Russ is bringing up a good point on how to build the budget, and we'll have some discussion, and we will, with Patsy, put something in writing to you on the structure, so you know. Russ bringing up a good point. How do we structure it for the full 12 months? I don't think we can solve that right now tonight.
Good. Janet?
I've never really understood this concern. At the current time, Michelle is finance clerk. She's a dedicated finance clerk. She has no other formal responsibilities. And I fail to understand, and this was without you on the scene, by the way, which you're making good, valuable contributions. But even without you on the scene, I could not understand why there was any concern at all about the notion that there's a person here 40 hours a week doing data entry and minding the accounting store, and then there are going to be a very highly skilled team of people providing oversight and management and tying this all together. I mean, I can't even figure out why you have a concern about why this isn't going to work. Somehow, you guys have the idea that people from Lauterbach are going to come in and put their green eye shades on and sit down at computers and start doing data entry or something. That's not the model. That's not the intention.
I agree with
The
you.
intention is for them to be accounting management and oversight, as a treasurer would be, right? And so that's one of the functions that you might want to get from a treasurer, is this accounting management and oversight. And so I just don't see the gap. You guys have been calling out this huge gap for months now that I don't see is there. So, I think the board's already made its decision on this, and you guys really should stop bringing this objection over and over back to us when we've made our decision.
There's no objection there. I'm just asking for direction so that I can build the budget. And Nick asked me, I've tried to explain to him how it's currently, what's in the budget now, and he seemed to think that was overkill. I can cut it down. I mean, again, you guys tell me what you want in the budget. But again, my personal feeling is that to do it with Michelle handling payables and the other things she's doing, and now she's doing some of the deputy clerk functions, right? If not yet? But is that going into, if that's going to be part of her, that takes away from what she can do on some of the accounting side, okay? I think you're going to be a little bit light on hours. That's all I'm saying. And
I'd like to respond about Michelle.
Sure, use the mic.
Most of you may not know that Julie leaves at 2, so Michelle's last 2 hours of the day are dealing with the front desk, and she responds to anybody that comes in. So she's not working 40 hours a week on finance alone.
Therese was first, and then we'll go Mike, and we'll go.
I guess I'm going to just point out kind of the obvious, that the 2.5 years before this, when Timothy was our treasurer, he was working 28 hours a week, plus Michelle was also here. So now we've taken that 28 hours, now we're saying 19 is enough, and he wasn't getting anything done. So I think it's a conversation that we need to have about what the different tasks are that you are all doing, and we can start to get an estimate of how much the time it's taking based on people who are actually doing the work. But, it's ridiculous for us to criticize what he's saying. He's giving us his advice when for 2.5 years, no one said a word about, 28 hours a week being billed by Timothy and the work not getting done, consistently not getting done. I'll talk about this more later, but if you take a look at some of the history of the last 2.5 years and the lack of detail being done in that department and the lack of any kind of financial reports being done or anything like that, and we sat back and did nothing, and now we're going to criticize, the guy who's actually fixing this. I've started looking through some of the old records over the last 2.5 years, and there were a few people complaining about things not getting done, but overall, it kind of went unchecked. And so I think right now, I think it's a legitimate thing for us to ask Russ to give us an idea of what they're doing now, how much time it's taking, so we know what we're filling in, and then take a look. And we've all talked about this with the Lauterbach contract. We're going to take a look at it. We're going to see if there's some tweaks that can be made to it so that we do cover all bases. But we're not just going to, I also think we've had a consensus on that we all agree that that's fine, we'll move forward, but we are going to take a look at it, and we're going to make sure we got all the different things filled in appropriately, so we're moving forward the right way. Because for 2.5 years, we were not functioning the right way.
Mike, go ahead.
To,
And then we'll go to
to extend on that and reiterate something I said before, is we want two functions out of, aside from what we have right now, we want two functions out of Lauterbach. We want a treasurer function that can carry forward, and then we want a finance director function. Those aren't necessarily the same things, right? The treasurer has the statutory things, has the cash things, but the finance director has the supervisory of the person, supervisory or task supervisory of the persons that are in-house here, so. Yes, and so when we talked about the budget, the Lauterbach contract last time, I asked, can we get a little bit more clarification out of that with the end goal of convincing Madam President that one of these people from Lauterbach, we can make the permanent treasurer. And that's the function we're talking about, is the treasurer function. And then what also of that $7,000, and again, for the public writ large, we're talking $7,000, we used to be paying $10,000, that's less money per month. Hopefully we'll get the work we wanted to get from before. So, yeah, it's a number. maybe it's a big number, maybe it's not, it's $84,000 a year. But that's probably a right number for these two functions that I'm talking about. How much percentage, what percentage of this contract should be the treasurer functions per statute, et cetera, et cetera? Is it 5%, 6%, 10, whatever? And then the remainder of it is the finance director, the supervisor, again, task supervisor, we're not talking about employee supervision, task supervisor of the work of Russ, Michelle, whoever that is actually doing accounting functions, payroll functions in here.
Okay, Frank, yeah, go ahead.
I was actually going to agree with Therese on this, that I think all we really need to do is have Russ document the amount of time it takes him to do the inputs and those types of things, and really just track that and determine, do we have enough hours or not? Michelle's role is Michelle's role. It was the same before. It's going to be the same going forward. The only difference is having Russ do the inputs, and then Lauterbach would do the, the other functions that we contracted with. So I don't know how hard that is, Russ, but I mean, if you can separate all the other things you're doing for now on this temporary basis and just do the typical, whatever it is, payroll or the other things that we talked about, just try to document how long it's taken you to do those things, and then we'll have real numbers to figure out what we need going forward.
And Frank, I can try. And right now, unfortunately, it's so much time is spent still trying to discover and find, and I know you get that. I mean, today I just realized there's a prepaid account sitting on the balance sheet, $182,000, and I started to look into it to see what comprised this balance, and I kept going back and back and back. I went back to 2016, okay, when it was this $50,000 balance came over from QuickBooks. No idea what's in it, no idea what the starting point was, and then there were certain expenses that were put in there, and then entries on a monthly basis to expense off somebody, like RML was one of the things that went in there, and then expensed off monthly, which is fine, it's an acceptable way of doing it. But then it stopped for a couple years, and then the balance increased, and then somebody started doing it again. And so at the end of April 30th, 2025, that account was the balance was about $83,000. Today, it's $182,000. So there's been stuff going in there, and the expenses haven't been hitting the books, and I need to go in there and die. So there's a lot of those things coming up that going forward, a year from now or 6 months from now or whatever, will not have to be done, because hopefully we'll have everything sorted through. But in the meantime, you sit down to try to do one thing and you get hit from all sides with other errors and other problems. So it's just tough to do. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I'm saying it's tough to do right
Yeah,
now.
I mean, if there's any way to carve out what that original role was supposed to be and try to track that, I know it's difficult, but, I mean, what you're describing is really the whole reason why we want to go to a professional firm, to get consistency over various administrations, so we can go back to a firm and say, hey, in 2016, there was this entry for $50,000, what was it?
Mm-hmm.
Today, we can't do that unless we hunt down whoever the treasurer was or whoever the finance director was. So, I mean, I think that was the whole reasoning why we want to try to take this in a more professional, consistent manner that can survive administration to administration, so every administration doesn't have to recreate the wheel and change things, and nobody can figure out why something happened.
Mm-hmm.
So again, what you described is a great reason why we're trying to move in the direction we're trying to move in, so.
All right.
Mike, go ahead.
I hadn't thought about that. I just want to jump on that really quick, because I think you're right, that's one of the things that has hurt us. The size of our organization is institutional knowledge. That's something that has always been an issue when we're talking about our professional staff, because of how few there are. I look at the places I work, bigger places, your finance department is 6, 7, 8, 10, 12 people. So one person goes over, not much of the institutional knowledge goes out the door. 2 people, that's a rarity. You're never really going to lose your entire 10-person finance department. Our finance department is one or two people at times, and we've had turnover and we've lost that kind of knowledge. So that's, I hadn't thought about that when we talked about this, but I think that's another selling point we should think to talk to everybody about, why getting a company that's got some, has a bench, that then we will now start establishing that institutional knowledge. So exactly when somebody's sitting in this place 10 years from now and they're asking what the heck those idiots did back then, at least they can have it documented, yeah.
Yeah, Therese?
So I agree that there is that possibility, but I don't think we should overestimate that going to a company is going to all of a sudden make it so that the guy who's working on it in 5 years knows what happened 5 years prior, because staff changes as well. And so I'm just saying, I get that that's an aspect, but I don't want to overstate that aspect, because they're going to have the same issues that we have with turnover
agree.
and new employees. And really what it always is going to boil down to is how good is the documentation, how good are the records, how good is all of that. And so that's more, probably a more important issue.
All right, are we ready to move on? Yep. All right, 11 was discussion and consideration of an RFQ for auditing services.
I just want to get clarity, Treasurer Smith brought up, there was a decision to probably, switch Lauterbach and go to Sickich, but do you want us to actually do a full RFQ, or just get a price from Sickich, and if it seems in line with what we've been charged, you'd go with them? I want to just get clarity on that. Right, right,
I'm
Patsy?
sorry. Let's start with Kim this time.
I'd say we go with an RFQ,
RFQ.
just to do it, if nothing else.
And then, you agree? And Janet?
We were already in conversations with Sickich about the accounting function. And during those, and they gave us a very nice proposal, no problems with the proposal for the accounting function. It was during those conversations that we realized, whoa, Lauterbach's been our auditor forever, and so they can't continue being our auditor, and so maybe they need to do the accounting work instead. And there are other companies, but these are the two big 800-pound gorillas. And so it was a bit of a reflexive decision, but the thought was, well, we were talking to Sickich about the accounting work, but if they're not doing the accounting work, then we will throw them the bone of the auditing work. We need to change auditors anyways, and they're either number one or two in the field locally. So I don't think we're going to gain anything by doing an RFQ. It's just going to drag things out longer. And the sooner that we engage somebody, the sooner that we can engage them in some degree of forensic audit, which I think everyone has agreed that we want to do. So I would like to just get it going, and because I think we're otherwise going to find ourselves in June having not hired an auditor yet.
Okay, Therese?
So I don't think doing an RFQ means that we're going to, wait till June necessarily, but I think it's something that we need to do for transparency with the village. I think we need to start doing this just in general when we're doing things. And so I think at this point, we've got their information, so we're just going to be comparing it to anyone that sends us additional information. And I think it's important for us to all kind of see what's out there, to learn about the other companies. I think, this was a process that was done by just a couple of trustees, and I think it's probably a good idea to open it up to the entire board, so we all have it's better transparency, and we might even get a better price if we start looking around. And maybe we get a better price even out of Sickich if they realize that we've gotten some, better pricing, but we may go with them because of their experience. So I don't see what the downside would be to be doing an RFQ on this.
All right.
We've had 2 for RFQ, 1 for Sickich. What's the rest of the direction?
Well, let's go one by one. Kim?
She already said RFQ.
Yeah. Nick?
Yeah, I'm not opposed to an RFQ as long as we can keep the timeline moving along.
And Frank?
Ditto.
Ditto? Okay. And Mike?
I think
That's it?
I was just asking Tony a question to
So-
make sure that we can quote, bid. Some professional services you can't bid, mine being one of them.
Qualification, RFQ is a better way, because that gives
I
you
know,
flexibility.
I know, and you're supposed to, where are we at right now? I'm
I think that there's a consensus to do an RFQ.
Okay, I don't care.
Okay.
Yeah.
The numbers-
Teresa's yes,
And those-
Janet's
the-
yes.
the-
You were a no,
There's
okay.
4 yeses.
I'll vote no to be,
Okay,
4 to 2, we're doing an RFQ.
every once in a while, Land Tech people and there's young people.
Yeah, the key is, I'll do it directed unless I'm, to get the timeline achieved. We'll look at the big remaining non,
TKO did it
yeah.
back.
So it'd be about 4 or 5 that we will direct it at.
Whoever else is auditing the other small towns.
Yeah.
Auditing the other small towns.
And I can survey Metro West to tell us who other Metro West people are doing.
it's true
Let's
that we're
get
paying
something out of that
more.
membership, Kim.
That's a good point. All right, motion to go into closed session. Carmen, do you want to? Mine is just too long.
The agenda indicates, so we'd be seeking a motion to enter closed session for litigation against, affecting, or on behalf of the particular public body that has been filed and is pending before a court or administrative tribunal, or when the public body finds that an action is probable or imminent. And that's under 5 ILCS 122 C11, and appointment, employment compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees or contractors under section 2C1.
All right, thank you so much. And there'll be no action after closed session, just to let the public know.
So you need someone to make that motion in second.
Yeah.
I'll
Okay.
second.
Therese?
I'll second.
All right. We have Therese and then Janet?
You have to roll call.
Okay, roll call. Yep.
Trustee Hefzenberger?
A.
And who seconded that?
I did.
Kim.
Aye.
Okay. Trustee Benetti?
Nay, I'm confused as to why.
Trustee Boatner?
Aye.
Trustee Burson?
Nay.
Trustee Millet?
Nay?
President Wodnicki?
Yes. What have you got there?
The ayes have it with your vote of yes.
Next looking like.